So as you can see, we've got this DC2 here, and it's here for a host of upgrades. As you can see, we got the fuel tank out of it, and so what we're doing is we've got a bunch of radium stuff going in. We've got the radium fuel hat, obviously. We've got the fuel rail, and what we're doing is we're running brand new AN lines from the front to the rear. He's also got a crank trigger kit on a Link ECU. So this car has been running on a distributor, but we've already swapped over the crank. It uses a 24-2 tooth, and you know, just a little bit of here and there fixes and stuff, like just from things from over the years. So a relatively clean car. He's had it for a really long time, as long as I've known him anyway. So it's probably been at least 10 years now, I would imagine. Anyways, so I just wanted to do like a quick overview on it. So we're using PTFE line from here, from the front to the rear. We've got a host of fittings coming in, and so what the plan is that we're going to remove the cover, obviously, to get to the wiring here, but we're going to go ahead and preemptively install the fuel pump and the hanger back in it. Then we're going to run the AN lines just to make sure that it clears, and then the tank will go back in. Once we get all that done, I'll remove the seat to get to this cover so we can do all the wiring for the fuel pump relay that we have from Deechworks, and then we'll get it all situated back together, and then you guys can see the top end of it. All right, so underneath the hood of the car here, we obviously got the radium rail. We have the radium fuel pressure regulator, a WHP 10 bar map sensor, the radium fuel damper as well. So now we've got to make lines, and we've also got to connect everything to the WHP flex fuel sensor kit here, as you can see. And we've removed all the factory lines, and we've also removed the factory fuel filter as well that used to go here. So all that stuff is gone now. Obviously, as you can see, this car's coil on plug. We're not going to talk about that though. So now it's just a matter of getting all the lines situated. So we're going to work on trying to figure out where to mount the new fuel filter. So we got the radium clamp and fuel filter here. These are their part numbers, which is 200218, and this one is 2012-2003. Now this one is a little bit different than their other fuel filters. This one actually has a built-in check valve, so do remember that there is a certain way that this needs to mount. Now the thing is that you're probably wondering why you need a check valve. Most aftermarket fuel pumps do not have a built-in check valve, and so what happens when you key the car off after it runs, all the fuel drains all the way back into the tank. So with this here, it's going to stop the fuel from going back, and then it should leave some fuel into the fuel rail for easier starts. So there is a slight downside to that, is that the fuel that's in the rail is going to get hot. So that's something that you're gonna have to pay attention to when you're tuning it. But overall, I think the trade-offs are really worth it, and I think it's minimal at best. So now the biggest thing is just figuring out where to get this sucker in. So if you're looking at the radium fuel filter, you'll see that it simply says like the inlet and outlet. So the outlet's going to go into the fuel rail. So the bracket's really nice. You've got these two holes here to mount to the other side of the clamp, and then these three holes here are designed to obviously use for mounting. So we're going to figure out where we can get this all in at. So we got some more fittings in today. As you can see, we got the fuel rail on and all that stuff. We've only got one PTFE line running to the flex fuel sensor at the moment. We're waiting on a couple of rib nuts to make it in for us to find the location of where we're going to mount the fuel filter. So currently where we're thinking about is actually mounting the fuel filter somewhat like this. Basically, we'll have the fuel feed from the filter, or from the tank to the filter right here, and then we'll have a line that comes off of here to run into there. But like I said, we're still kind of planning it out to try to figure out where that needs to go. In the meantime though, I'm going to go ahead and get working on the fuel pump side of it. First things first though is we're going to remove this fitting here for the return, switch it to a 6AN, and then we'll get the new AEM pump here situated and installed. And if I've got time, I'm going to go ahead and toss it back into the tank. All right, so as you guys can see, we've got this all done here. Now the radium hanger is designed to use 2 fuel pumps if you choose to. We're obviously only using one in our application here. And the cool thing about it is that the only thing that's being retained from the factory stuff is just the rubber O-ring up here. And it only goes in one way. As you can see, the rubber nipples here, there's 2 that are the same and the third one that's not. But yeah, that's basically it. So pretty cut and dry there. Now we just get to slip this guy in, make sure we don't pinch any wires. Alrighty, so as you can see, that's fully seated there. All we have to do now is get the nuts back in it, and then figure out what we're going to do about hose routing. Now on Radium's photo, there is a picture, and I think it's an install that someone else did, but they ran a straight AN line here and a 45 AN, and we're basically going to do the same thing. So the 45 just needs to clear this bolt here, which is why we can't run 2 straight fittings as well. I mean, I guess we could try to snake it around, but like I said, we've already got the 45 fitting here. So this is, like I said, this is basically done now. So we can actually just put these on up, and then we can put the tank back in the car. And then once we get the tank back in the car, we'll undo the seats to get to all this stuff here to do all the wiring. So just real quickly, I wanted to show you guys basically the routing. As you can see, like I said, we're running a 45 here and a straight here. These are PTFE fittings from Vibrant. As you guys know, we use a lot of. So at this point, really, it's just putting these nuts on, and then we can go ahead and put the tank back into the car. Alrighty, so we got a couple things done here. As you can see, the Mishimoto and the CSF fan is here, which Jeremiah moved the mount over. And so now we have this nice and solid. We used an aftermarket upper mount for an EG. We're trying to figure out what to use for an upper radiator hose. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. A lot of the fuel lines are ran. They're obviously not in their final configuration, but we have a rough idea of where it needs to go. We tried to fit a fan on the backside of here for the AC condenser, and that wasn't happening. So we grabbed one of our universal fans and got the blade flipped around and the wiring done. And it's now a pusher fan. So, and it's not too big of a deal because it is an AC only fan. We've got the lines ran from front to back. The tank is fully installed. We had to rip out all the trash that's in here. So Jacob, if you're watching this, you should really clean out your car. But as you can see, the lines are in place, and we have them running obviously underneath the car. So as you see, we got the lines running down. We followed the factory hose routing. But the problem that we had was actually right here. So it's a really tight spot fit right here. We had to drop the subframe down a little bit on this side just to tuck the hoses in. But they are in and they are cleared, and they don't seem to be pinching. But this is definitely something we're gonna have to re-inspect. You know, next time the car's in for like an oil change or something, we'll have to definitely check this out because it is extremely tight here. We initially tried to run it into this spot right here, but what happens is that the sway bar, as you can see, is disconnected. Once we connect the sway bar rests right on the hose. And so, you know, the thing with sway bars is that they do pivot, and over time it's going to rub into the hose there. So we had it tucked up into the subframe. It's not quite tightened up yet, but this one is, so it should be fine. And we'll go ahead and wrap that all up tomorrow, and then hopefully we can mount everything. And then as you can see down below here, here's the mount that Jeremiah welded up. We're gonna hit it with a little bit of paint here just to make sure that everything is good. And you can see where the mount used to be, that got drilled out and moved over for the half rad conversion. All right, so we ended up using a LS Integra upper radiator hose. We had to trim it down a little bit, but it all fit. We've got the fuel filter mounted. The only problem is that the angle of the mount, we couldn't get a bottom bolt in it, so the customer is going to have to just keep an eye on this. But we did put 2 rib nuts back here, and it is pretty secure. I don't think we'll have any problems. We had to move the flex fuel sensor over just a hair, just so we could have a little bit of space back here though. So all that is all back together. So now we've got to put some fuel in it, and then I'm just going to jump the wires in the back where the fuel pump is, just to get fuel coming up to see if we got any fuel leaks. So we just powered on the fuel pump here. We had one leak right here, and everything else seems good. We just kind of powered it up with our jump rocks real quick, so everything seems good there. Does everything inside look okay? Okay, so we're good on the inside. So now we can actually start wrapping it up. So we got the Integra pushed out because I've got to clean out the car, and I've got to do some wiring. So the biggest thing here is going to be the trigger. So the trigger needs to be redone, and the reason is that we've obviously switched to the Hall effect style sensor. So Hall sensors are 3 wires, whereas the factory distributor is a VR, which is only a 2-wire sensor. So I've got to run wires from obviously here to the inside, Then we've got the wiring for the fuel pressure sensor as well that needs to be wired up and brought in as well, wired up to the ECU. So the first things first is I'm going to go over the documentation. I'm going to clean the passenger side of the car because that's where I'm primarily going to be doing all my work. And then like I said, I'll go over the documentation and see where we're at. And so just so you guys see what I'm working with, the guy basically lives in this car apparently. So I'm going to start moving some stuff around here, that way I have some space to work with. All right, so we're doing the wiring. I've already got the other 2 pins done here, but basically if you look, there's a little hole in here that we've got to make sure that we can see the wire through. Now I've got my IWD-20 from iWis here. We're going to stick this guy in, make sure it's all bottomed out, and then just give it a good squeeze. Once it's squeezed, we're going to check the crimp on it, which looks really good. Give it a tug, and it's all working right there. So now this is the connector for the Hall effect sensor for the new crank sensor. So here it is here. I've just got to verify the pin out really quick here, and then this thing will slide in, and then we've got our retainer here that's going to go to the front side here that basically locks all the pins into their place. Okay, so we got everything pinned up. We've got ground, signal, and power here respectively. We're going to go ahead and just run all 3 of these wires into the cabin right off the ECU. Before I made some extra connections for power ground over at the ECU side, and so it just makes more sense to tap this all into the ECU instead of trying to go through the factory distributor wiring. Now once I wire this in, I'm going to plug it in, and then we're going to check to see if we can get signal out of it. And what I'm going to temporarily do is I'm going to keep the what's called the CYP sensor in the distributor to see if we can use that as our cam pickup. And then if we can get it to work as cam pickup, I'm going to disable it to see if we can run crank trigger only. I think, again, this vehicle is in weighted spark, so I think we could get away with crank only. And if we can go crank only, then we can at least delete the distributor altogether. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get the car to start. We've already jumped over the this is obviously poorly wired for now, but this wire is actually the crank sensor going into pin B16, which is the original distributor wiring. And so this green wire right here is actually the original distributor wiring. So we couldn't get it to start, but we're going to check over a couple things and probably put new spark plugs in it because I'm pretty sure that I fouled them out.